Salutations, everybody. It is Matty here today, and I know, I can hear the comment section. Another Oblivion Remake video, bro. Again? How much you milking this thing, bro? I can hear it, but look, man, if you're like me, the main thing I see in my comment section is someone somewhere always bringing up the Oblivion Remake. I asked for feedback for a Switch 2 impressions video in a community post, and one of the top comments was, "Where's the Oblivion Remake?" I don't know, but I'm trying my best, and I'm trying to scrape all the information together and continue to feed y'all who are just like me and super hungry for this game. Now, we do have new information to get into today, trying to narrow down the release window of Oblivion Remake, but it's also going to lead us into what's going on recently with Elder Scrolls Online and how people are starting to galaxy brain this. If I were to draw a connection, really, to how things feel right now with this Oblivion Remake, although I, again, still don't get, as I'll rant about later in this video, the shadow drop part of this whole Oblivion Remake, this does remind me a lot of Fallout 4. Every crumb on the table when it comes to Oblivion Remake is like a full meal for people. Like, oh, there's something, there's a little piece there. So we're going to talk about those little pieces here today, and then again, dive into what's going on with ZeniMax Online Studios, because a lot of people think they're sunsetting Elder Scrolls Online, but it's doing anything but that, and I'll start to break down a lot of Bethesda's kind of structure of their online games versus their single-player games, so we'll really get into the thick of it there. But ladies and gentlemen, if you've been around here for a while, thank you for being here. Thank you for joining me on this journey to whatever this Oblivion Remake is going to end up being. And if you're new here and you're interested in what's going on with Oblivion Remake, I don't know, feel like I got a bunch more videos in me, so consider subscribing. Breadcrumb time. All right, here we go. So let's start off with Nate the Hate, who is one of the original sources of the Oblivion Remake leak. I mean, this goes back so far, between the Reddit post from Virtuos all the way to the FTC leak. Again, as I said in our last video, when people were really doubting the legitimacy of this game, I just say that there's just way too much smoke, way too much evidence. It's way too out there for it to have not been shut down by someone somewhere. So it's obviously real, and Nate the Hate has doubled down on that. He says, "I have no concerns about the Oblivion Remake being legit or it coming in April." So what has happened now is I am struggling as a gamer. I went ahead and finished up my Lies of P playthrough to the chapter 9. So now that is good to go, where it's ready for the DLC. And I'm just doing a little procrastinating gaming. I'm basing my whole schedule around, like, this can drop at any time, and it damn well better be good. But I have been working around where I'm like, do I commit to like Death Stranding now? I don't know if I want to commit to Death Stranding now, because I'll definitely drop it when Oblivion Remake comes out. It's been tough out here, y'all. It's been tough out here, but seems like April is still the month, so we don't have to worry too much about that. The question is, when in April? Right now, we are still in the front half of April, and Nate the Hate is locking in the second half. The original rumor was that it was going to be the third week of April. That came from Detective Seeds. However, I do have to say that Detective Seeds has since deleted his Twitter account, and that's usually, to me, not a vote of confidence that a leaker has been spot on. I mean, I get it, the public spotlight sucks and all, but that's usually not a pretty big vote of confidence as to, you know, the legitimacy of said leak. So right now, just leaning into what Nate the Hate had to say, second half of April. All right, so start making your gaming plans around that. Sometime in the last 2 weeks of April, we'll be playing the Oblivion Remake. But then it gets really interesting. Jeff Grubb has now stepped into the leaker ring when it comes to the Oblivion Remake. And according to this headline from GameSpot, Oblivion Remake will shadow drop at any moment this month. The long-rumored remake of Bethesda's popular 2006 RPG, The Elder Scrolls IV Oblivion, continues to come into focus. Reporter Jeff Grubb of GameSpot's sister site Giant Bomb offered an update on the project today during game-breaking news, saying he expects the game to release soon. In fact, Grubb said he expects Bethesda to shadow drop the game, quote, at any moment this month, end quote. That means Bethesda would announce and release the game at or around the same time, it appears. So this is what's driving me a little bit insane with it all, okay? Because when it comes to shadow drops, I feel like they're usually aligned with a significant event. You know, when we got the Hi-Fi Rush shadow drop, if we're looking at a Bethesda shadow drop, we got Hi-Fi Rush during the first ever developer direct. That really was a surge of excitement, even if Tango unfortunately ended up shutting down. We've since got some numbers on the sales for Hi-Fi Rush thanks to Alinea Analytics, and it seems like maybe if you combine in Xbox sales, this game crossed over 1 million sales. So for like the hardcore gamer, Hi-Fi Rush was this like, whoa, oh my God, but for like the masses, it didn't seem to reach out there. So it's just, number one, weird Bethesda's gonna go ahead and do this again. But the thing I just can't shake about the shadow drop. The true thing I cannot shake is how weird it is. As we'll talk about in a little bit with the Elder Scrolls IP, it has been since Elder Scrolls Online that I think Elder Scrolls fans have truly got something substantial. Now, you could make the argument like, okay, Matty, we haven't gotten anything in a long while. And in terms of something new in the mainline series, it's been ages. It's been since Skyrim. So yeah, we don't want to wait once we first hear about it. That is good for the fan. And that is why I'm not complaining, but I think about it from the business angle, and there has to be something we don't know. I say that, I'm getting my conspiracy board out here again. I say that because when you look at what Bethesda has done, they've even pre-announced Elder Scrolls Castles. Elder Scrolls Castles. That got pre-announced. They've done it with Blades. They've done it with Legends. These are the 3 spin-off Elder Scrolls. I'm sorry, Elder Scrolls fans. Y'all have had it rough. These are the 3 games that have come out from the Elder Scrolls IP since ESO, which I think was the last significant release in that franchise. That's absurd. And you're telling me the next thing, the actual next big thing Elder Scrolls fans get is a shadow drop. That's extremely exciting, but to me, from a business angle, it just says something like you wouldn't make a marketing campaign out of this. You wouldn't build this up. Even for a month, a couple of weeks, you wouldn't do that. What's going on here? And again, it goes back to my expectation, which is just going to be a very pretty version of Oblivion. Have your expectations in check. I think there is a place for that in the market, especially with Sky Oblivion existing. You have a pretty version of the thing you remember when you were younger, and then you have like the full-on overhaul that we always dreamed of from the fans. Still, it drives me insane because Bethesda has the experience of a game that just shadow dropped, and eventually, while it wasn't just, I think, solely Hi-Fi Rush, but like consecutive underperformances from Tango, it did result in the almost closure of Tango until Krafton got their hands on them. So there's a risk there, and my very skeptical, pessimistic look at it is like they might be looking at Sky Oblivion going, this is the only way we generate hype. Okay, so with that rant off my chest now, the question is, again, if we're working with shadow drop type energy here, what is the event it shadow drops with? Does it just drop on like a random Wednesday? Like, hey, it's out. Here you go. I don't feel like that makes sense again. Like, there's got to be some level of like gathering people so a lot of folks can see it at once. So when it happens, you know, if it's going to be word of mouth marketing, it just spreads like wildfire. At least that's what my thought would be as someone with zero marketing experience, might I add. But hey, I'm a fan of good marketing, so what can I say? So now we look at Elder Scrolls Online, because the Elder Scrolls Online Direct just happened. And a lot of people were saying, this is going to be where the Oblivion remake is announced. And to that I say, why did anyone ever have that idea? I'm not trying to be mean, of course. That's not what I'm about. But like, why would that ever be someone's idea? Because the way that Bethesda's single-player games versus their online games have thrived is the online games have thrived in an environment where you have not got exactly what you wanted, and this was the next best option. Now, I do think ESO is amazing. Would I play Skyrim over ESO, though? Every single day of the week. But ESO is still fantastic. Y'all gotta stop slandering ESO. But Fallout 76 thrived in a similar pocket. There's been nothing except a Fallout TV show since 76 dropped. When it comes to Elder Scrolls Online, there's been nothing except the 3 games I mentioned before, which were nothing like what you were looking for in the Elder Scrolls franchise. So ESO, for the last 11 years, has been the go-to option when you just want something new in Elder Scrolls. And that's the way 76 has thrived, ESO has thrived. So for people that think that ZeniMax Online Studios is going to step out and be like, here's our new plans for Elder Scrolls Online moving into the future. By the way, here's the thing you've really been waiting for. That just steals their own thunder. They don't want that. They want you to go and engage with ESO. And no doubt they can kind of feed off that energy from Oblivion Remake. That's how these online games, I think, can really thrive in the Bethesda ecosystem. But they're not going to like shoot themselves, like load the gun right in front of you and shoot themselves in the foot 4 times over and be like, yeah, that's right, go get your Oblivion Remake now. Like, it's no one would go play Elder Scrolls Online for the most part unless you're deeply engaged in that ecosystem. They're trying to pull in new players, but they're doing something pretty cool, which is called Seasons of the Worm Cult, and it's a sequel to the base game story from when it first came out in 2014, which just gives me a lot of nostalgia. I remember covering the hell out of this game. But ZeniMax Online Studios, a lot of people thought that we might get the Oblivion Remake there because they're in this, a lot of folks are claiming it, a wind down state for Elder Scrolls Online, but I think people dramatically underestimate, number one, how popular Elder Scrolls Online is, number two, how big ZeniMax Online Studios is, and number three, how much money they do actually make. For example, we just learned Elder Scrolls Online tops 26 million players. That's a 1 million player jump since October of just last year, and also 18 million players was one of the last marked points in March of 2021. So we're talking millions and millions of people still hopping in, checking this thing out. As of 4 years ago, this was actually picked up online. If you check out the Bethesda job listings, you'll see, but ZeniMax Online Studios opened an unannounced Montreal studio. They've been pouring tons of resources into this team. If you look at the amount of ZeniMax Online Studios available, it's crazy. It's more than really any other Bethesda property. And they've also, according to this LinkedIn post that Juice had picked up, an associate narrative director has been working on an unannounced AAA game, at least partially speaking, since as early as 2018. This is known as Project Kestrel, according to the FTC leak. It's oftentimes been linked to ZeniMax Online Studios, and it's kind of the blind squirrel finds a nut moment for me, because I've been predicting for like whenever this FTC document came out, I'm like, this is the year we see Project Kestrel. Certainly they've worked on it long enough, and I've been wrong every time. So naturally the year I'm going to be like, all right, if it happens, it happens. It will actually happen. But no doubt Elder Scrolls Online is going to get a shift in attention, because I think ZeniMax Online Studios is about to go in on a huge new property. And truly, like, I'm excited about that, because ESO is fantastic. Like, they get MMOs, but they also got Elder Scrolls really well, particularly with Tamriel Unlimited, where they started to incorporate that sort of feedback to kind of meld those two worlds. I think it is a great experience. So I'm super excited to know what they're doing next. But that does not mean that they are sunsetting a huge moneymaker that is going to, alongside Oblivion Remake, keep this franchise afloat and will no doubt just thrive off of like things such as Elder Scrolls 6. Like, I think they're going to keep this thing going for a while. And the example I use to convince people is always Star Wars: The Old Republic. I love this game because of the narrative and whatnot, but this is like a dying MMO to the point that BioWare has just shoved it off their plate entirely so that they could be a one project team. Yet that game is still alive, still gets, albeit minimal support, but it is definitely out of like the big MMOs, one of like the fading ones. But I think Elder Scrolls Online is going to continue to get tons of content. It seems like, especially with the ESO Direct, they did not show any signs of like, we're peeling back now, we're shifting our focus. Like, they have so many teams, so much manpower that it seems like they are just going to be able to keep ESO going in a meaningful way, which they have been, by the way, incredible with their timelines. Like, every June, you can almost count on something happening. Every year, like, they are scary consistent, which is why I think they have managed to amass such a player base. Is when you get in, you know they're going to keep giving you more and more. And they also tease something for the Dark Brotherhood, which is always hype. So yeah, they're going in on ESO. That's not going anywhere. So this was not a place that you were going to see the Oblivion Remake. Where it ends up being, again, anybody's guess, sometime in the second half of April, but no significant event, no significant showcases, nothing. It's just going to drop one day, I guess. So there you have it. That's what's going on right now with Oblivion Remake. It's anyone's guess, but if you're trying to organize gaming plans, life plans, gotta tell the wife and kids, you know, when you're going to be busy, just say second half of April, keep the schedule open, all right? Because I might need to disappear for a little bit, provided this looks great. Again, I feel like a lot is going to come into focus, and we're going to understand a lot more when we see this Oblivion Remake. Because again, the shadow drop, my sus alert is just up. I don't know. Have I grown bitter and old and skeptical yet? I don't feel that way, but just something is off. I think the thing that just bugs me is like, clearly people know when it's coming out. Like, I've tried to talk to people. I'm like, just when's this thing dropping, bro? Like, what's going on? And no, it's coming soon. It's coming soon. I'm just like, okay, everyone seems to know. No one wants to crack this secret. All right. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we stay patient until then. I'll catch you all in the next video. Stay sexy, stay active. I love you all. Peace.